Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are tracking a rapidly developing situation in the Middle East, one that many analysts hoped was coming to an end, but which now appears to be spiraling once again. According to a report published on May 8th by BC News Network, the United States and Iran continue to engage in ongoing military confrontations, even as expectations grow that their negotiations may be reaching a final stage for a potential deal. It is a paradox. Talks proceed on one track, while gunfire and missiles fly on another. The U.S. military command stated that it launched strikes against Iran in response to what it called a violation of American sovereignty. The incident allegedly involved an Iranian missile-equipped destroyer obstructing a U.S. path through the strategic Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that carries approximately 20% of the world's oil. Let me walk you through exactly what happened, because the details matter. And as always, the truth likely lies somewhere between the competing claims of two adversaries who have spent decades learning to distrust one another. Part 1. The Naval Confrontation, May 7th. On May 7th, three United States destroyers, the USS Dawn, the USS Raphael, and the USS Mason, were passing through the international waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Their destination, the Gulf of Oman. Their mission, routine transit, according to U.S. officials. But routine is a dangerous word in this part of the world. As the three warships made their way through the strait, the situation escalated dramatically. According to the U.S. military command, Iran launched a series of anti-ship missiles. Iranian military boats swarmed the area, attempting to attack the American vessels. The waterway, already tense from months of conflict, became a shooting gallery. Now here is where the narratives diverge sharply. The U.S. version. The United States claims that the three destroyers did not back down. They did not respect Iran's missiles, meaning they did not alter course or retreat in the face of the threat. Instead, the U.S. military says it successfully repelled a series of attacks by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. Using a combination of electronic warfare, countermeasures, and possibly defensive fire, the American ships defended themselves and continued on their path. But the U.S. did not stop at defense. In response to what it called a violation of its sovereignty, the United States again targeted several Iranian military sites. According to U.S. Central Command, these included a missile facility and an Iranian command post. The strikes were precise, the Pentagon says. They were necessary. The Iranian version. Now let us look at the other side of the coin. Iranian military officials, Iranian state media, and the country's navy have issued statements accusing the United States of violating the ceasefire, a ceasefire that was already hanging by a thread. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced that the U.S. military had attacked a Congolese ship near Iran's Chalk Island. That is a significant claim. A Congolese vessel, flying the flag of a Central African nation, caught in the crossfire between the United States and Iran. Iran claimed it launched a heavy attack in response to the threat of a U.S. strike on Iranian military headquarters. The Iranian military has continued to accuse the U.S. of breaking the ceasefire and has alleged that the U.S. planned to destroy an Iranian Congolese ship heading toward the Strait of Hormuz. These are not minor allegations. They go to the heart of whether either side is acting in good faith. Part 2. Who controls the strait? The U.S. military announced that it now has control over the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. But let us examine what control actually means in this context. According to the U.S. military command, American forces did not seek to provoke tension. The strikes on Iranian missile and tank sites were characterized as defensive actions, carried out to protect U.S. forces facing a possible attack. In other words, the U.S. frames its actions as reactive, not proactive. Iran struck first, the U.S. responded. That is the official narrative. However, according to an Iranian news agency, the United States has not yet reopened the Strait of Hormuz for Iranian shipping. Despite the U.S. claiming control, Iranian vessels are still being prevented from transiting the waterway. That is not control in the sense of free passage for all. That is control in the sense of denial. The U.S. is using its naval power to restrict Iranian movement while allowing its own ships and allied vessels to pass. An Iranian spokesman stated clearly that Iran has the right to retaliate against any U.S. warship that enters the Strait of Hormuz. He described this as a direct response to what Iran calls American aggression. The language is strong, deliberate, and unmistakable. Iran is warning that any American warship entering those waters does so at its own risk. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said in a statement that there were ongoing attacks on the coast of Badashan province, as well as on two other Iranian islands, the Syrian and Gam Islands. These are not mainland Iran, but they are sovereign Iranian territory. Any strike on these islands would be considered an attack on Iran itself. Part 3. Unconfirmed strikes and mysterious explosions. Now we enter a gray area, the realm of unconfirmed reports, secret attacks, and explosions that no one claims responsibility for. Iranian media reported that the United States may have launched strikes on the country's coastal areas after residents heard explosions in the city of Badashan. This information comes from IRNA, the official Iranian news agency. Take that for what it is worth. State media in a country at war has its own agenda, but that does not mean the reports are false. It simply means they must be weighed carefully. According to observations from residents along Iran's Badakhshan coast, there appears to be a mutual threat between Iran and the United States. The same source claimed that the U.S. launched strikes on 3 Iranian islands starting from May 6th. In the center of the city of Tara, bomb explosions were reportedly heard for several consecutive days. Now, here's where the story becomes particularly strange. Notably, this remains exclusively an Iranian media report of a secret attack from the United States. Iranian citizens did not see U.S. or Israeli warplanes in the sky. There were no visible aircraft, no drones spotted overhead. Yet bombings occurred in multiple areas of the capital and at military headquarters. The United States has not claimed responsibility for attacking the Iranian capital or its military installations. Iranian officials have not claimed responsibility either. No one is taking credit. That is highly unusual in modern warfare, where both sides typically rush to announce their successes. However, Iranian witnesses in Tariqa described a secret attack, not just a single explosion, but multiple blasts. They heard the explosions, felt the ground shake, but saw no planes. That suggests either long-range missile strikes from beyond visual range or perhaps a different kind of weapon entirely. Part 4. The ceasefire ends. Media reported that on May 7th, exchanges of fire occurred between the United States and Iran both on land and along the country's coast. In this attack, the United States reportedly launched bombings from warplanes and fired missiles from warships at several coastal areas. The media characterized this as the two countries effectively ending the ceasefire. Let me pause here. A ceasefire is an agreement to stop fighting while negotiations continue. If both sides are still shooting, then the ceasefire has already failed. The question is, who broke it first? And does it even matter anymore when the violence has its own momentum? Iranian state media called the United States a violator of the ceasefire, stating that the enemy has not kept its word and continues to attack Iran. Iranian officials declared that the regime must take retaliatory measures to defend its sovereignty. That is not a threat, that is a promise. Iran is telling its own people and the world that it will respond. And herein lies the danger. Each side views itself as the defender, the aggrieved party. Each side believes it has the right to strike back, and each strike back is seen by the other side as a fresh act of aggression, justifying yet another response. This is the classic escalation spiral, and it is very difficult to stop once it starts. Part 5. Israel's potential role. Now we must bring in the third player in this drama, Israel. Prime Minister Ismail Ho did not specify whether the Israeli Air Force would join the United States in launching strikes on Iran's coast. His language was careful, measured. However, he stated that Israel is ready to retaliate if the United States becomes the victim of a missile attack by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Let me translate that for you. What Prime Minister Ho is saying is that Israel will not necessarily initiate an attack, but if American forces are hit, Israel is prepared to act. And once Israel enters the conflict directly, the nature of the war changes entirely. An IUS-Iran confrontation is one thing. Add Israel, Iran's most hated enemy, and you have a completely different level of intensity. For Prime Minister Ismail Ho, such a scenario would not come as a surprise. He has been preparing for it. His military has been planning for it, and many analysts believe he is waiting for the right moment. Part 6. What comes next? Observers see little chance of a common future between Iran and the United States. The trust deficit is too deep, the wounds too fresh. Although there is expectation of a final agreement between the U.S. and Iran, some kind of deal that would end the war, experts on Middle Eastern political affairs suggest that Israel will once again seize the opportunity to attack Iran if the chance arises. Think about that. A final agreement between America and Iran might not bring peace. Instead, it could trigger Israel to act before the deal is fully implemented. According to these analysts, any Israeli attack on Iran, regardless of scale, could mark the beginning of a new wave of war, not a continuation of the old one, but something new and perhaps worse. Once again, Israel's stated goal is to destroy the Islamic Republic of Iran and liberate the country from a regime that the Arab world considers the most dangerous in the Middle East. Let that sink in. Israel and Iran are not just adversaries. They are historical enemies. Iran has consistently threatened to wipe Israel off the world map. Those are not idle words. They are official policy, repeated by Iranian leaders for decades. From Israel's perspective, a nuclear-armed Iran is an existential threat. From Iran's perspective, Israel's alliance with the United States and its undeclared nuclear arsenal are equally threatening. Neither side trusts the other. Neither side believes in peaceful coexistence, and neither side is willing to back down. Conclusion: a tinderbox waiting for a spark. Let me bring this all together for you. We have U.S. and Iranian warships exchanging fire in the Strait of Hormuz. We have U.S. strikes on Iranian military sites. We have Iranian threats to retaliate against any American vessel entering the strait. We have mysterious explosions in Iranian cities that no one claims responsibility for. We have a ceasefire that is being violated by both sides, each accusing the other of breaking it first. And we have Israel waiting in the wings, ready to strike if the opportunity presents itself. The negotiations between the U.S. and Iran may still produce a final agreement. But even if they do, that agreement will be built on a foundation of sand. The violence on the ground, the mistrust in the capitals, and the uncertainty about what happens next all point in one direction: more conflict, not less. Israel's role remains the great unknown. If Israel decides to attack Iran, whether with U.S. support or on its own, the region will erupt, and once that happens, no one can predict where it ends. We will continue to follow this story closely. The next 48 hours will be critical. Will cooler heads prevail? Or will the spiral of escalation pull everyone into a war that no one wants but no one knows how to stop? Stay tuned, and as always, thank you for watching.